For RCR Wireless News, I'm Sean Kinney, and welcome to a special three-part series we're producing in collaboration with Comptel. Today we're joined by Comptel CEO Juhani Hintikka and Chief Marketing Officer Ari Vanttinen. In addition to learning about Comptel and the different solutions they provide, we're going to discuss the rapidly evolving telecom ecosystem, including strategies for monetizing big data, increasing service provider agility and time to market, and Comptel's Operation Nexterday North, an exciting event coming up November in Helsinki. Juhani, Ari, thank you for joining us today. And to get started, Juhani, could you give us a high-level overview of Comptel and the work the company does?
Our vision is life is digital moments, and we are on a mission to perfect those moments. And that kind of says what we are about as a company today and where we are headed. But we're not also born yesterday, so we've been in the business for almost 30 years, primarily serving the telco industry in doing two things in a business critical domains. So we collect consumption information in the networks, who's been using network resources, and we feed that into the billing systems that constitutes the basis of a bill for any customers. And then we also activate services for any given point of time, any given customers across 85 geographies. Respectively, this means that we process about 20% of all mobile billing records through our software. We manage services through our software for over 1 billion consumers around the world. So we've built this position over the years. Our customer base is about 300 tier one telcos around the world. And as I said in the beginning, the business criticality and the high quality of our products is what we're known for. And this is kind of where we're coming from.
And we all know telecom is one of the most competitive industries there is. How does Comptel enable operators to push the boundaries of innovation to keep that competitive edge?
First of all, if we look at the environment, I think it's fair to say that we're in the eye of the perfect storm. If we look around us, I think there are lots of capabilities that are allowing digitalization to disrupt many industries. And I think telco can be one of those, and I think telco can also be one of those beneficiaries of all of these capabilities. We have users which we call the cloud generation. There are about 6 billion smartphones in 2020. There's the app economy, so increasingly people are living their lives through the usage of apps. Internet of Things is bringing us yet more devices, estimated 50 billion devices by 2020. And then if we look at the underlying infrastructure, there's hyperspeed through current 4G rollouts and moving on to 5G. There's the virtualization, which essentially takes a lot of cost out of the networks, but also it provides flexibility in terms of the provisioning of IT and telco resources. And then there's the whole notion of a big data, vast amount of data waiting to be utilized. Now, what is our role? We are kind of in the middle of all of this. So we are actually, technically speaking, we're a layer between the resources and the customer. So essentially, we like to say that we understand what is the context of the customers, what is it that they need in terms of digital services in this given point of time, in this moment for this particular person, and then we can automate the delivery of all of this. So that kind of brings us to our mission, which is about connecting digital demand and supply.
Ari, business transformation is a hot topic and a major theme of Comptel's Operation Nexterday. Tell us a little more about Operation Nexterday and how it will help transform businesses going forward.
Happy to do that. If I go a little bit back, what's the history and background with this concept, what we call Operation Nexterday? It comes from the fact that there's a lot of changes and there's a big transformation obviously going on. And operators are thinking about the revenue waves. And the fourth wave is obviously the digital services after voice, messaging, data access, and now it's digital services. And the transformation is bigger than what we actually realize. And we try to raise up to the helicopter perspective to think about it. What are the issues? What are the pain points that our customers and the whole industry is going through now, and we came up to the kind of four fundamental issues, and already Juhani touched them earlier. But the first one is the digital buying experience, how the cloud generation customers and consumers are changing. The whole they living expectations are kind of putting tremendous pressure on how operators serve them. The second issue is that there's the whole offering, the digital services will be so much more complex in the future. But at the same time, it's a very positive opportunity for the operators if they want to seize that opportunity. So there's more to monetize, but there's less time. We are talking about telco speed versus internet speed. And obviously that is a big pain point at how to get it faster, how to introduce new services faster on the marketplace. Because we operators are in many cases fighting against guys like Amazon, Google, Netflix, you name it. And there the speed is obviously higher or faster. And the third point is obviously the virtualization and all of that. How do we move the business from ground to cloud?
Excuse me.
And the fourth element of Operation Nexterday is to talk about how do we utilize the data? How do we truly kind of transform from a little bit stupid, lazy, very kind of a costly big data into something what we call intelligent fast data, which is taking advantage of data when it's fresh, when it's new, when it's utilized and analyzed and processed right away when it comes. The four elements are the basis of the Operation Nexterday, but it's a transformative journey for us, for our customers, and for the whole industry.
When we consider not just the level of market competition, but also the level of consumer demand for new and innovative services associated with Generation Cloud, how do operators manage that level of complexity?
That is a big question, and we have to understand that there's always a big, like I said, the revenue waves has been voice, messaging, data access, that the whole legacy infrastructure is built to serve that. Now when we are transforming and moving into the digital services, which are, like you say, very dynamic, very elastic, very dynamic in many ways. So that put us a lot of pressure on, and it's not just an easy job to jump from the legacy to the something new. So there needs to be a evolutionary path. But what I'm also highlighting here is that it needs to happen fast. We don't have time. And obviously there's a lot of process changes, technology changes, but also the mindset, the culture needs to change.
Ari, we're all seeing this shift of power from the seller to the end user. What are some of the signals of that shift, and what do you think is driving it?
Kind of every day in the discussion, especially with the marketing organization and the sales organization, the guys who are closer to the customer, like we describe the new customer is the cloud generation. And what are the qualities of that cloud generation is that they are impatient. It needs to be, for me, right now, right away. Don't mess with my time, and so on. So that is a really kind of the expectation level is so much higher, and it's getting more and more kind of a, how would I say, crucial for the operators to understand this cloud generation behavior. It is different, and the benchmark are coming outside the industry. So that's the main thing, and that's the whole industry needs to step out from the collective blind spot and start to do the benchmarking to other service providers and other businesses.
Now, Juhani, while cash flow is a valuable asset, some industry players would argue that time is our scarcest resource. How can automation help reduce cost while simultaneously increasing offerings?
So I think this transformation, first of all, has multiple targets. So transformations are usually about money and investments, and I think all of the solutions today taken on board by our customers, there would be a standard requirement would be that they save a lot of money by making those investments. And I don't think this is any different. There are big drivers to the changes related to automation. So if I, for example, give an example from our Flow One service orchestration family, one of our customers told me that with the same amount of people, he's able to process 100% more orders towards the network. That is a significant saving through automation. At the same time, I think there are other aspects where the operators are hoping to save a lot of capex and opex. And one of the biggest drivers is, of course, the usage of cloud-based resources on one hand, and on the other hand, the virtualization of their networks. And of course, it started with IT, but it's moving now into telecom networks. And over time, I think there will be very little difference between today's IT data center and tomorrow's telco network. So both of them will be essentially applications running on standard commercial off-the-shelf hardware. And I think both of these are of course kind of offering a lot of opportunity for savings. And why is this so important, these savings? I think it's important because there's more value migrating towards the customer. So actually a lot of value will be around that layer, and that means that the underlying infrastructure for understanding and processing what kind of services are needed and delivering those, that needs to evolve in terms of its efficiency. And I think those are the things that we are seeing. Part of this efficiency is also understanding the customer better. So when we talk about embedded intelligence, for example, that is about understanding the individual contextual situation and being able to offer something which is tailored for that particular situation and purpose. And I think we'll see more of that. There are examples beyond telco today that are, I think, very clearly about that. If you look at the Uber taxi service, that would be clearly an example of understanding the individual circumstances and being able to provide a service for that. And I think we'll see a lot more of that going forward.
In a world dominated by mobile data, can you explain the role of personalization as it relates to data packages?
So I think in general there is a demand for giving the customers more control. Ari talked about the not messing with my time. It is the kind of the other side of that coin. I think it is about me being able to say and define what is important for me, and part of it I think will happen online without human intervention, about using some of the applications and tools that are available there. Specifically, if we talk about, for example, data service monetization from an operator standpoint, we will be launching a solution, a cloud-based solution towards the end of this year, which is all about data service monetization, essentially offering an opportunity for a consumer to buy data in smaller packages. And this is especially relevant when you are in emerging markets trying to move feature phone users into smartphone users, as an example.
And Juhani, what new tools do operators need to bring new services to market quickly?
Some of the tools are, of course, related to analytics, and we talk about Fastermind. That's our brand name for our analytics product, but it's about the embedded intelligence, so that there is actually quite a bit of information that can be collected. And by the way, I have to say, from a data security perspective, that usually it's not so relevant who that person is. So I think by definition that can be anonymized, and that doesn't really impact the delivery of those services, nor the kind of contextuality there. But even by using just information that is available in the network, there's plenty of data around location, what type of device, what kind of quality of service there was in the call, and then if you go further and think about the data available in the handset itself, it can be even much more. There is an understanding also what kind of applications you're using, etc. So there can be a profile, and in the best circumstances, that profile can be built to serve you better and offer you things that are relevant for you in your particular situation.
Ari, another huge topic in telecom circles is network functions virtualization. Regarding NFV, how can operators use it to drive agility, scalability, and flexibility when they're rolling out new services?
The whole NFV is a pretty interesting. We at Comptel, we see it as an evolutionary path to the future, and for us, it's nothing magical. It's the next very natural move to do. That has happened already in other industries, and now it's touching the telecoms industry big time. But I have to say there's a lot of talk, not so much yet real action. And but obviously the benefits are like, okay, in the beginning there was a lot of talk about cost savings and that. But actually, when we listen to customers nowadays, they more see the kind of a more dynamic nature of the whole business. Because the world is dynamic, it's not static, it's not heavy, it's not thick, and that's the ultimate goal, is to really find why I would describe as an elastic business model, which is like elastic from the networks, really what's going there, and going elastic all the way up to the customer-facing end. So it's the elasticity all the way. And that's what they are really looking for. And what are the benefits and the kind of the advantages of that is obviously that we can deliver a better experience for the customers, right? Because we're not so how would I say, tied to the static and fixed offerings. So we can more in a flexible way serve the demand in a more contextual way, and that's really important. And obviously, a lot of these business processes are also going to the cloud. We used the phrase from ground to cloud, which really means that it doesn't happen over the night. There will be still some of the stuff, some of the resources and processes still on the ground, like so to say, but there will be more and more like cloud-based. Take, for example, the CRMs. There's no customer that is looking for a kind of a static, heavy CRM system nowadays. They look for Salesforce, they look for these type of things. And that is going across all the business processes right now. And that gives more flexibility in many ways, and scalability. Yes.
Building on that, what are the competitive advantages to operators adopting NFV as a replacement for legacy systems?
I would say that is a must-do thing. They need to really take it seriously and go there. However, the route to the virtualized kind of environment is different, and it depends how they see. We have a lot of customers that are saying, hey, let's rip off all the legacy and let's start from the scratch and do that way. And then some of the kind of operators or customers are saying that we need to migrate step by step, taking baby steps, so to say, forward to the virtualized. So there are different routes to that. But however, that's anyways. And I can understand the business case calculation, and there has been so much money invested in the legacy systems, and unfortunately, it has become what I call Franken system. It's kind of they are like in a prison to kind of serve the infrastructure in many ways, and it has been built over the time. Every now and then there's a new idea that let's do this and that, and there will be a new layer of technology built on the existing one. And now it's the moment to think about, are we building the virtualized infrastructure on top of everything what we have, or should we find another route to kind of a little bit start from the scratch? But it's not an easy case, and it depends on the market.
As we discuss virtualization and automation, Juhani, how does automated data volume handling and refinement enable operators to grow and innovate quickly?
I think there are two aspects to it. One is there is the enhanced understanding of who that person is and what is relevant for that person, and I think that is a kind of it's part of the overall customer experience, how well the operator is able to serve that particular customer. And I think there's a lot to be won in that space. I think many of the operators are not that well known, I think, for their great customer service. I think there's a lot to be gained in that space, and I think rather than maybe focusing on how to make customer care more efficient, I think it can be about predicting what is actually needed and what is important. And it can be as simple as understanding that I just had a dropped call. The operator would automatically react to that by sending a message and apologizing and maybe compensating somehow for that. It could be as simple as that. But then there's the other aspect, which is about understanding also how much of the resources need to be deployed, because as explained, I mean, we're moving into this dynamic world where the provisioning of resources is an elastic process. I think we're scaling up and down all the time, and provisioning certain resources to deliver a service in a telco environment today it's a relatively complex task that a few companies master, especially when you're talking about enterprise services and fixed networks. But as we move along, it will actually not become less complex. I think it will actually, if you imagine that today's we are managing a box, that box has the application and the hardware inside of it in a telco network. Tomorrow, there are several pieces of virtualization software, for example, that constitute that virtual box. So you have to actually essentially manage that. And then there's the additional aspect that you're all the time shifting in terms of where are we provisioning and serving you, because that is not fixed. So there's a dynamic aspect to the provisioning of those resources. So all that together, I think, benefits from understanding what is the need and using embedded analytics, and, for example, simply predicting how much demand there is for certain resources can be hugely beneficial for the operator when they're kind of thinking about dimensioning their network and their resources.
As we see various industries realize the impact of effectively analyzing big data, how can service providers work with Comptel to leverage that actionable insight to their advantage?
So, I mean, if I just kind of cite a few examples, first of all, you can automate the right actions in the moments that are relevant. It can be concretely the creation of offers. And of course, for the operator, that would mean that we would monetize faster. We can reduce friction and complexity in the business flows. And I think altogether, I think what this will enable the operators to gain more revenue from these digital moments.
Now, Juhani, I know Comptel has a big event coming up in November. Can you tell us more about Operation Nexterday North and the goal behind it?
I think what is important about Operation Nexterday that is it's not a kind of just another telco event. So we wanted to address the question that how do we get some of the mojo back into the industry? So how do we make it exciting, and how do we actually harness all the capabilities that are around there also in this industry, and how do we make telco part of it? So the program and the agenda is designed along the themes of bringing interesting stories where digitalization has been deployed, and what can we actually learn from those. So it's not all just telco. There are actually examples also from adjacent spaces and some IoT examples, for example. And I think the profile of the speakers is simply it needs to be an interesting story, whereas typically in an event you would probably try to get as many CEO or C-level speakers as possible, or big names to capture the audience. But we've addressed it at a little bit different way. So it's the other idea that there is that we have combined that timing wise together with the biggest startup event in Europe called Slush. So we expect, Slush is expecting 15,000 people to fly into Helsinki that week to look at some of the most innovative startups there are in the world, and our ticket gets you entry to Slush and vice versa. So we're hoping to benefit both ways from there. So I think that's kind of that's what it is. And I think altogether what it is, I think it's trying to prepare telcos into the opportunities that are out there.
And Ari, I think each day of the event has a different theme. Can you take us through that?
The structure of the event is threefold, and like we already discussed, we will have it in conjunction with the Slush. But the structure we wanted to put really is that on the day one, we say that kind of a think across, think ahead, what we can learn from other industry. That's why the speakers, the whole discussion, all the stories at Nexterday North event will be around other industries and examples of story, because we believe that the answer cannot be found inside the telco collective blind spot. We want to illuminate that and try to kind of step outside that and try to learn from other industry. The second day is all about think again. So I think telco industry needs to find themselves again. I mean, the whole industry needs to find itself and define it in a different way. And so the second day is all about think again. How does this industry look like the next 5, 10, 15 years? So that's, and there we have collected in our mind the most disruptive and innovative cases around the globe, really to kind of inspire the audience to kind of renew their playbooks. And the third element is, like discussed, that we will sponsor our attendees to the Slush. So, and the question sounds, what can we learn from startups and that mentality and that culture? Because there's a lot to learn from there as well. So, and that all together, these three elements make it a nice experience. So we believe it will be, like Juhani said, it's not just another telco event. It's way beyond that. And that's what is needed right now.
So Juhani, when we look at how quickly the telecom landscape is changing, how can Operation Nexterday North help operators stay both relevant and competitive?
I think it's a combination of a couple of things. I think we need to recognize, first of all, that this is a huge industry that has huge infrastructure deployed there. So I think there is an evolution of that infrastructure in terms of moving towards more agile and flexible delivery machinery for all of that. But if we look at it from a layer perspective, that is the kind of underlying layer, and then on the top you have the customer layer, and there I think the telcos need to be really open to collaboration with other companies, third parties, OTT players, because a lot of the value will be created there, and not all of the content will actually come from telcos. We believe that the majority of the telcos that will actually be very successful will find a good way to collaborate with the third parties, and I think this whole notion of digital services, you can view it as some kind of a funnel that's expanding upwards. So underneath you have the delivery infrastructure, but here you're actually kind of scaling horizontally, and you are going beyond the traditional telco services. And just to give you an example, Ford Motor Company is an OTT. I mean, there are 5 SIM cards in every car that leaves the factory. They are actually kind of utilizing that digital infrastructure in this space.
Finally, Juhani, how will Operation Nexterday North help position Comptel going forward?
We would clearly like to be on the driver's seat in those areas where we have invested in, and we think we have quite a lot to offer there. It needs to be perceived as unique, so we need to bring unique value through our solutions to our customers. We think we have a point of view in terms of the thought leadership side of things. We think we have interesting things to say and great people to kind of convey those messages. And then I think there's the kind of delivery. So we're as good as our last projects. We take great pride in the project we've delivered. Customer excellence is focal in that. And then I think taking that forward with the help of partners and our inspired people, that's what ultimately will make us successful.
Juhani, Ari, thank you for joining us and sharing Comptel's perspective on a quickly evolving industry. And we look forward to Operation Nexterday North to learn more about the cutting edge work Comptel is doing.